movie footage used in any of the Slasher Scotty videos, including the body count, the rankings, and the top 10 videos, are entirely owned by the copyright holders. Slasher Scotty makes no claim of ownership and simply uses the footage for purposes of education, commentary, and criticism under the Fair Use Act. Welcome everyone to The Body Count, where we tally up all of your favorite kills for all of your favorite horror movies. I am your host, Slasher Scotty, and before we go into what this week's episode is about, I just would like to say that this episode of The Body Count is being sponsored by the Fairy Squad Princesses, and it is a preteen book series by author Marcus Motra. I get it. It's not horror-based, but they are today's amazing sponsor, so show your appreciation and pick up your copy on Amazon today. The links are in the description below. The book series is about 4 fairies that try to save the world from evil forces, and it is based closely to the Winx Club. Order your copy of all 3 books, with the 4th one set to release this year. Now that we covered the sponsors for this episode of The Body Count will be covering Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Yes, that's right, as the subtitle stated, that this is, in fact, the return of the boogeyman himself. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, brought back Michael as the killer we all know and loved due to the poor box office of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, on top of the exclusion of Michael in that film. This film, in following a different timeline than the first 2, yet keeping continuity, follows a young girl named Jamie Lloyd, who is the daughter of the now-deceased Laurie Strode. This little girl is in fact the niece of Michael Myers, and he isn't ready to give up killing his family members. So how many bodies did Michael rack up on his return to Haddonfield 10 years after the last go-around? Let's go and find out. This film starts with a title card, where we are presented with a strange form of credits that is unlike the other Halloween films, with a view of fall foliage and harvest in a rural farm area, which includes mostly Halloween-related imagery, such as pumpkins, skulls, ghosts, and skeletal decorations, pitchforks, scarecrows, bear trees, and whatnot. The year is October 30th, 1988, and it is 10 years after Dr. Loomis incinerated himself and Michael Myers in the hospital. It is a rainy and stormy night, and a Smith's Grove Sanitarium ambulance pulled up at a high-security Ridgemont Federal Sanitarium where a comatose Michael Myers is located, and he is about to be picked up and transferred back to Smith's Grove, and the security guard allowed entry to the 2 attendants, and was infamously quoted as saying,
"Yeah, first time here, huh?
Hope it's the last time.
You never get used to the faces. Never."
Jesus.
Jesus ain't got nothing to do with this place.
Michael, whose face is bandaged due to the explosion 10 years prior, is being evaluated by Dr. Hoffman, who said he is happy to see Michael finally being taken away, and that Dr. Loomis is still his doctor. In the back of the ambulance, the attendants, known as Attendant J. Black and Attendant L. Evans, is supervising Michael, and he awoke from his coma when he heard that his nearest living relative is a young niece in his hometown of Haddonfield. Michael then drove his thumb through the forehead of Attendant J. Black, adding our first victim of this episode to the body count. In Haddonfield, the 8-year-old niece of Michael, named Jamie Lloyd, was having trouble sleeping at 4 a.m. It is revealed she is the daughter of Laurie Strode, and that she is having nightmares of a threatening figure in her room the days prior to Halloween. She had been adopted by the Carruthers family for 11 months, and was close to her consoling teenage foster sister Rachel, and she also doesn't feel like she's her real sister. Jamie treasured a shoebox with a picture of her 17-year-old mother who died in a tragic car accident. Fun fact, the picture of Jamie Lee Curtis in the shoebox was a publicity still from the first Halloween film. Jamie has another hallucinatory nightmare of a masked Michael Myers trying to kill her with a scalpel, before she woke up in a closet crying, where her foster mom Darlene comforts her. It is now Halloween, where a few costumed school children race to their school bus and are excitedly anticipating a night of trick-or-treating. However, Rachel's plan to go on a date with her boyfriend Brady had to be postponed because, at the last minute, is asked by her parents to assume babysitting duties for Jamie on Halloween evening, as her original sitter had to cancel due to an injury. Jamie overheard that Rachel was upset over the changed plans, and she expressed hurt feelings of rejection. Feeling sympathetic to Jamie, Rachel begrudgingly accepted the babysitting job and proposed that they have ice cream at the Dairy Queen after school. On Halloween morning, Dr. Loomis was seen speaking with Dr. Hoffman in his office. Loomis had a disfigured and scarred face from a life-threatening fire from Halloween 2, 10 years prior, and he has to wear black gloves and is forced to use a cane. He was furious at Dr. Hoffman for not being notified about Michael's transfer the night before. There was an interrupting phone call that described something about an accident, so both Loomis and Hoffman drove off to the location of the accident. The Smiths Grove's ambulance had run off the road and overturned in a shallow water near a bridge. We can now officially add Attendant L. Evans as well as 2 paramedics unnamed with unknown genders to the body count from the wreckage. Loomis intoned that his patient had survived and had proceeded to head back to Haddonfield to stop Michael once and for all, which is an approximately 4-hour drive away. At the Penny service station garage on the way to Haddonfield, a greasy mechanic is working under a car and is also added to the body count when he was impaled in the stomach with a metal rod by a still bandaged Michael Myers. Loomis was then observed as he pulled up to fill his car with gas and then found the mechanic chained up, gagged, and dead inside the shop. We add another person to the body count as a waitress is found dead by unknown injuries on the floor. Fun fact, the waitress was played by the real-life wife of Michael Lookinland, the actress who is most famous and notable as playing Bobby Brady in The Brady Bunch. Loomis then saw Michael standing immobile in the kitchen, and as he prepared his gun, he uttered some words to Michael and then shot a few stray shots at him, but he disappeared, and then Michael crashed through the garage's main door and drove off in a massive tow truck while setting the dispensing gas pumps and Loomis's car on fire. The wires on the nearby telephone pole were burned, cutting off communications so that Loomis couldn't call ahead and warn the Haddonfield citizens of the evil coming to their town. At school, Jamie was mercilessly teased and taunted by her classmates about not having a costume, having an uncle called the Boogeyman, and for having a dead mother, saying that her mommy's a mummy. They then proceeded to chant and sing at her that she's an orphan. Damn! Children are brutal! After school, Jamie was picked up by Rachel's friend Lindsay, and she decided she'd like to buy a costume at the Vincent Drug Discount Mart, where Rachel's boyfriend Brady works before getting ice cream. Fun fact, Lindsay in this scene is supposed to be a grown-up Lindsay Wallace, the little girl from the first movie that Annie was babysitting before she pawned her off onto Lori to get some fun time with Paul. One of the masks on the display at the store was a Michael Myers mask, which a disfigured hand grabbed, and then Jamie found a red and white clown costume. She stood in front of a mirror and had a momentary vision of herself as a young 6-year-old Michael Myers in the same clown costume from the night he murdered his older sister Judith. She also experienced a real-life view of the, quote, Nightmare Man, which is Myers wearing his signature and trademark mask, standing behind her. When she is backed up, the mirror ominously shattered, and Rachel, Brady, another employee named Kelly Meeker, and some of Brady's friends go to check and see if she is okay. Dr. Loomis is hitchhiking to Haddonfield because of his car exploding thanks to Michael, and he is still about 119 miles away from his destination. He finally found a ride in a run-down old pickup with a whiskey-swigging religious fanatic and itinerant preacher, Reverend Jackson P. Sayer, who, in his wild rantings to his fellow pilgrim, spoke of an apocalypse, the end of the world, and Armageddon. He then starts singing, "They gather down the river," as both he and Loomis take some swigs of that whiskey. Dude, you're driving! That's an automatic DUI! On Halloween night, Rachel and Jamie were spied upon as they eagerly left to go trick-or-treating. Michael enters the Carruthers' house, and he went upstairs and overturned the contents of Jamie's shoebox, which he found a picture of his sister Lori, which means Michael can now identify his own niece. Before he left, he ended up killing the family dog Sunday. If you hadn't noticed by now, Michael does a lot of dog killing in this franchise, but they won't be added to the body count. Sorry, but only humanoids are added to this list. At the Haddonfield police station, Dr. Loomis learned that Sheriff Lee Brackett had retired in 1981 after his daughter was butchered by Michael, and the town's new sheriff is Ben Meeker. He noticed then that Michael Myers had escaped from Ridgemont and had come to Haddonfield, and that Laurie Strode's daughter, Jamie Lloyd, was in mortal danger. He convincingly warned that between Haddonfield and Ridgemont, he had already come upon 6 bodies since Myers escaped. Jamie and Rachel were followed by Myers as they went door to door for candy. At the Meeker home, Rachel was shocked to see that the sheriff's daughter, Kelly, who was a co-worker with Brady at the discount mart, was being kept company by her own unfaithful boyfriend, Brady. Oh, Brady. After she canceled their date due to babysitting. At a local bar, a TV news bulletin from Sheriff Meeker notified the residents of Haddonfield having a curfew, and everyone was told to clear the streets and that businesses were ordered to close. The local redneck owner of the bar, Earl Ford, called the sheriff's office to confirm, but there was no answer at the station. Meanwhile, Rachel lost track of Jamie during their door-to-door outing when she wandered off and she started panicking. A technician named Bucky was at the town's power station where he was added to the body count when Michael threw him into an electrical transformer, electrocuting him to death in a shower of sparks. His death caused an electrical blackout throughout Haddonfield where the darkened streets were deserted as Rachel searched for Jamie, fearing that she was being followed by the sheep. Sheriff Meeker and Dr. Loomis finally found the 2 girls wandering around. Loomis and Sheriff Meeker were spooked when they saw 3 people dressed as Michael Myers, but it was just a prank by teenage boys. Not cool, but anyways, as they drove off with Jamie and Rachel, the real Michael Myers watched them silently from the streets. After arriving at the police station, Jamie and Rachel waited in the car, and Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Meeker entered the police station where they see it had been ransacked. They find the mutilated body of Deputy Pierce, who was missing a hand, as well as 2 other police officers that were mangled, adding 3 more people to the body count. Dr. Loomis restated his belief that Myers was evil and not human. Then outside, Loomis told a group of shotgun-toting, concerned, beer-drinking, and patrons from the local bar, who were named as Alan Gateway, Orrin Gateway, and Unger, along with the bar's owner, Earl Ford, that it was Michael Myers that had come home to kill. The group drove off in their trucks, acting as a vigilante lynch mob, with Earl vowing to kill Myers. After shooting multiple rounds at an unseen suspect in some bushes, Earl, Big Al, Orrin, and Unger found out that they had accidentally killed one of their friends, Ted Hollister, adding him to the body count. In front of a roaring fire at the Meeker house, Brady is making out with Kelly, but their romantic liaison is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of her father, Sheriff Ben Meeker. As they hurriedly dressed to avoid being caught, Dr. Loomis, Rachel, Jamie, and Sheriff Meeker entered the house. Deputy Logan also drove into the driveway behind them, unknowingly carrying Michael as a passenger in the back seat. Brady was given a shotgun to protect the girls and was sternly warned by Sheriff Meeker to stay away from his daughter. Brady then went to secure the attic, and Deputy Logan and Kelly barricaded the lower part of the house for protection. Without phones or power, Sheriff Meeker communicated via a shortwave radio in the basement and sent a distress call to State Police Trooper Headquarters for backup, mentioning that there is a killer on the loose. Loomis left for the Carruthers' house, predicting that Myers would go there, and Sheriff Meeker left to check out the Ted Hollister murder. Kelly all but admitted her indiscretion to Rachel after stealing her boyfriend, where Rachel then throws some hot coffee onto Kelly's nightgown. Deputy Logan remained in a rocking chair guarding the front door with a shotgun, and Kelly came to bring him some coffee. She discovered Deputy Logan's mangled and bloodied body on the living room couch, with blood trickling from his mouth, thus adding him to the body count. Myers had taken Deputy Logan's place in the rocking chair with his shotgun and would rise out of it, impaling Kelly Meeker through the chest and pinning her to the wall with the shotgun, and adding her as the next victim to the body count. Shortly after, Brady fought valiantly against Myers until his head and neck was crushed, snapped, and then broken by Michael's bare hands, adding Brady to the body count as well. Rachel and Jamie escaped from Michael and went to the attic and climbed onto the roof of the house. Rachel lowered Jamie to safety on the ground with a loose cable tied to her waist, but fell off the roof when she dodged to avoid being slashed by Michael's butcher knife. She appeared to be dead, but actually she did survive. Jamie ran off screaming for help and found herself in Dr. Loomis's arms. They went for refuge to the elementary schoolhouse where they broke in, and Myers not far behind. Dr. Loomis was then thrown through a window as Jamie fled down the corridor and found only locked doors. She tumbled down the stairs and found herself helpless as Michael approached to murder her, but Rachel came out of nowhere and sprayed him with a fire extinguisher. They then escaped the schoolhouse together, and then outside of the schoolhouse, the group of 4 patrolling vigilante citizens heard the school sirens, and they picked up Rachel and Jamie in their pickup trucks to take them to safety. They decided to leave Michael Myers and the town's troubles to the state police, after all, and Earl Ford drove them out of Haddonfield as they passed a caravan of state police heading to the town. However, Myers had inexplicably hung onto the back of their truck and crawled up to the open truck bed to assault the 3 beer-bellied hillbillies. First, he added Orrin to the body count by stabbing him with a kitchen knife in the back. Next, he added Big Al to the body count by stabbing him in the stomach with the same knife and then gutted him, and then he threw both of their corpses of Orrin and Big Al off of the moving truck and onto the road. He then added Unger to the body count when he threw him off of the moving vehicle and onto the road. All 3 of the deaths were unnoticed by Rachel, Jamie, and the truck's driver, Earl, until Earl was added to the body count himself when he had his neck bloodily ripped open by Michael's bare hand through the driver's side window. Rachel was left to steer the swerving vehicle after she had tossed Earl's corpse out of the driver's door and down a hill. With her maneuverings and an abrupt braking, Michael was thrown off the top of the truck and she deliberately attempted to run him down. His body was sent flying through the air into a fence. Sheriff Meeker, then the state troopers, and the surviving members of the lynch mob arrived at the scene as Jamie was walking up to a seemingly lifeless corpse of Michael, where she touched his burned, scarred hands. Revived, the Shape suddenly gripped his knife and sat up like The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Michael then forced the troopers and the lynch mob to open fire on him as he stood and was relentlessly shot dozens of times by state police before he fell down a mine shaft where he is presumed dead. Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Meeker brought Jamie and Rachel back to their house after the horrific ordeal, and Loomis was assured that Michael Myers was dead, and the nightmare was finally over. Upstairs, Darlene, the mother of Rachel and the foster mother of Jamie, was preparing Jamie a hot bath. The film ended with a major plot twist. Through touching Michael and becoming psychically linked to him, Jamie was transpossessed by Michael's murderous and evil instincts, and she ended up stabbing Darlene with a pair of scissors. Dr. Loomis screams, "No!" witnessing Jamie wearing her clown mask and costume standing upstairs with the bloodied scissors, and it was similar to a young Michael Myers in the opening of the first film, which was 25 years earlier when he killed his older sister Judith. The film then rolls to the end credits as we are left wondering what happened to Jamie and what her role will be in a possible sequel. First and foremost, I won't be adding Darlene to the body count because, spoiler alert, she didn't die, and it was revealed in Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, that she survived that attack. The film is one of the better sequels for the original timeline prior to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and this is the film that is the first of the 3 films with the whole Cult of Thorn story arc. But they did give us what we wanted, and that was the return of Michael Myers. Did Michael's return to the franchise rack up a decent amount of bodies? Let's find out at the numbers. Oh, no, it's the firing squad! Oh my god, don't add me to the body count too! Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers was released on October 21st, 1988, and it starred Donald Pleasance, Ellie Cornell, Danielle Harris, Bo Starr, Kathleen Kinmont, Sasha Jensen, and George P. Wilbur. Not including my joke, death, on this episode of the Body Count, there were a total of 18 deaths in Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers, with 13 of them being male, 3 of them being female, and 2 unknown gendered paramedics, which gives us a rarity, a 3-flavored pie between males, females, and unidentified genders. The Slasher Scotty gold ribbon for coolest kill goes to Kelly Meeker. Her death always made me fascinated by how it was done, and as a kid was a total shock factor to me. The Slasher Scotty silver ribbon for lamest kill will have to be given to the waitress at the diner, because lying dead with no rhyme or reason on how isn't cool, and Bobby Brady himself cannot even change that. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, as there are plenty of videos to come, including interviews with celebrity guests, as well as some more rankings videos, top 10s, the SSN, otherwise known as Slasher Scotty News, and of course the Body Count, where we'll be diving straight into and headfirst right into Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, next week. But until then, I am Slasher Scotty, and this has been the Body Count. Be good people.